Hey everyone, Many Rainbows here, and welcome to my new channel, which I'm calling Reading Rainbows. Take a wild guess why. I figured that I would start off with the Babysitters Club because that was like my absolute favorite series growing up. I mean, I couldn't even go 1 week without reading a Babysitters Club book. I love the series so much, and I figured it would be fun to go back as an adult, reread the series and just sort of, see it from an adult perspective and, maybe pick on it a little, but more like point out things that as an adult I'm going, wait a minute, would I really let a teenager get away with this sort of stuff? So, I'm starting off with Babysitters Club number 1, Kristy'S Great Idea. And if you have any ideas for a book you'd like me to read, go ahead and leave your suggestions down in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. So let's get started with Kristy'S Great Idea, Chapter 1. The Babysitters Club. I'm proud to say it was totally my idea, even though the 4 of us worked it out together. Us is Marianne Spear, Claudia Casey, Stacy McGill, and me, Kristy Thomas. I got the idea on the first Tuesday afternoon of 7th grade. It was a very hot day. It was so hot that in my unair-conditioned school... How many public schools are air-conditioned? I know that none of the schools that I went to as a kid were air-conditioned. It was so hot that in my unair-conditioned school, Stoneybrook Middle School, the teachers had opened every single window and door and turned off all the lights. My hair stuck damply to the back of my neck, and I wished I had a rubber band so I could pull it into a long ponytail. Bees flew into the classroom and droned around our heads, and Mr. Redmont, our teacher, let us stop working to make fans out of construction paper. The fans didn't do much except keep the bees away, but it was nice to take up 10 minutes of social studies making them. Okay, first of all, you had to stop working to make fans. And second of all, it took 10 minutes to fold a piece of paper into a fan. I mean, yeah. Since this is social studies class, I'm guessing that, that you don't have art supplies in there like glue and glitter and all that other stuff. Unless that's something that you carry around with you. But, yeah, I would think that, all you're doing is taking a piece of paper and folding it, and that's it. Not doing anything fancy. So why would it take 10 minutes to make a fan? Anyway, that stifling afternoon dragged on forever, and when the hands of the clock on the front wall of our classroom finally hit 2:42, and the bell rang, I leapt out of my seat and shouted, "Hooray!" 2:42 is such an odd time to get out. I mean, I would get, 2:45, 2:50, something like that. Something on a even 5 number, but 2:42, that's just so oddly specific. I was just so glad that it was time to get out of there. I like school and everything, but sometimes enough is enough. Mr. Redmont looked shocked. He was probably thinking he'd been so nice letting us make fans, and there I was, not appreciating it at all, just glad the day was over. I felt bad, but I couldn't help what I'd done. I'm like that. I think of something to say, and I say it. I think of something to do, and I do it. Mom calls it impulsive. Sometimes she calls it trouble, but she doesn't just mean trouble, she means trouble. And I was in trouble then. I could sense it. I've been in enough trouble to know when it's coming. Then you should also have enough sense to know to keep your mouth shut and think before you act. Mr. Redmont cleared his throat. He was trying to think of a way to punish me without humiliating me in front of the other kids. Things like that are important to him. That, and also he probably just doesn't want to deal with a whole bunch of snotty kids laughing at you. He's trying to have respect for you. Christy, Mr. Redmond began, and then he changed his mind and started over. Class, he said, you have your homework assignments, you may go. Christy, I'd like to see you for a minute. While the rest of the kids gathered up their books and papers and left the room, talking and giggling, I made my way up to Mr. Redmond's desk. Before he could say a word, I began apologizing to him. Sometimes that helps. Mr. Redmond, I said, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean anything. I didn't mean I was glad school was over. I meant I was glad I could go home because my house is air-conditioned. Mr. Redmond nodded. But do you think, Christy, that it would be possible in the future for you to conduct yourself with a bit more decorum? I wasn't sure of the exact meaning of decorum, but I had a pretty good idea it meant not spoiling Mr. Redmond's day by jumping up and shouting hooray when the bell rang. Yes, because if you look up decorum in the dictionary, the definition given is not spoiling Mr. Redmond's day by jumping up and shouting hooray when the bell rang. That is the exact definition. Great job, Christy. Yes, sir, I said. Sometimes being polite also helps. Good, said Mr. Redmond, but I want you to remember this incident. And the best way for us to remember things is to write them down. So tonight I would like you to write a 100-word essay on the importance of decorum in the classroom. Darn, I'd have to find out what decorum meant after all. Yes, sir, I said again. I went back to my desk, gathered up my books very slowly, and then walked very slowly out of the classroom. I hoped Mr. Redmond was noticing the slowness because I was betting it was an important part of decorum. No, he's probably noticing because he wants to get to his own air-conditioned house, and you're dragging your lazy butt. I found Mary Ann Spear waiting for me outside the door to my classroom. She was leaning against the wall, biting her nails. Mary Ann is my best friend. We live next door to each other. We even look a little alike. We're both small for our age, and we both have brown hair that falls past our shoulders. But that's where the similarity ends. So you look alike because you're short and you have brown hair. I'm pretty sure that would define at least a quarter of the kids in your class, both male and female. So, you might want to expand on that just a bit. Alright, but that's where the similarity ends because I can't keep my mouth shut and Mary Ann is very quiet and very shy. Luckily, that's only on the outside. The people who know her well, like Claudia and Stacy and me, get to see the inside of her. So you get to cut her open and look at her guts? Cool! And the Mary Ann who's hiding in there is a lot of fun. So there's a little person hiding inside the big person. Hey, I greeted her. I pulled her hand out of her mouth and looked at her nails. Mary Ann, how do you ever expect to be able to wear nail polish if you keep doing that? Christy, noticing someone's nails, caring about nail polish. Oh, come on, she said with a sigh. Nail polish. I'll be 75 before my father lets me wear it. Mary Ann's father is the only family she's got. Her mother is dead and she has no brothers or sisters. Unfortunately, her father is pretty strict. My mother says it's just because Mr. Spear is nervous since Mary Ann is all he's got. You'd think, though, that he could let her wear her hair down instead of always in braids, or give her permission to ride her bike to the mall with Claudia and me once in a while. But no, at Mr. Spear's house, it's rules, rules, rules. Yes, some parents are lackadaisical and other parents have a lot of rules. That's just the way it is. You respect that. It's a miracle that Mary Ann was even allowed to become a member of the Babysitters Club. We walked out of school and suddenly I began running. I forgot all about decorum because I just remembered something else. Oh my gosh, I cried. Mary Ann raced after me. What is it? She panted. It's Tuesday, I called over my shoulder. So? Slow down, Christy. It's too hot to run. I can't slow down. Tuesday is my afternoon to watch David Michael. I'm supposed to beat him home. Otherwise, he gets home first and he has to watch himself. David Michael is my 6-year-old brother. My big brothers, Charlie and Sam, and I are each responsible for him one afternoon a week until Mom gets home from work. Kathy, this 15-year-old girl who lives a few blocks from us, watches him the other 2 afternoons. Kathy gets paid to watch him. Charlie and Sam and I don't. Yes, because he's your own flesh and blood and you shouldn't have to get paid to watch your own family members. Just saying. Marianne and I ran all the way home. We reached my front yard sweaty and out of breath, and there was David Michael sitting forlornly on the front steps, his dark curls falling limply across his forehead. Okay, here's what I want to know. So, the bell rings, she jumps up, shouts hooray, and then her teacher has a talk with her. The talk lasted 2 minutes maximum. Then she goes to her locker to get her stuff. Figure that's another maybe 5 minutes at most. And then she and Marianne are walking home before she realizes, hey, it's Tuesday, I need to be home for David Michael. So they start running. Yeah, with the running, that sort of cuts the time in half that they spend walking home, let's say. So, does she normally have to run home every single week that it's her day to watch David Michael so that she beats him home? If, talking to the teacher for 2 minutes makes that big of a difference in whether she gets home before her little brother? I mean, yeah, they ran at least halfway home. So, yeah, she should have beat him home anyhow, unless she really spent a lot of time, hanging around the locker and staring off into space and thinking about nails and nail polish, which, well, anyhow. Alright, we reached my front yard, sweaty and out of breath, and there was David Michael sitting forlornly on the front steps, his dark curls falling limply across his forehead. He burst into tears as soon as he saw us. "What's wrong?" I asked. I sat down beside him and put my arm around his shoulders. "I'm locked out!" he wailed. "What happened to your key?" Who gives a 6-year-old a key to the house? David Michael shook his head. "I don't know." He wiped his eyes, hiccuping. "And this is why you don't give a 6-year-old a key to the house. They lose it, so now, who knows, there could be some stranger out there with a key to Kristy'S house, just waiting to break in, all because you decided to give a 6-year-old a house key. And what good does giving a 6-year-old a house key do if he's not supposed to be home alone? If Sam or Charlie or Kristy's supposed to get home before him anyhow, one of them has a key. Why give the 6-year-old a key?" "Well," I said, "it's all right. I got my own key out of my purse." David Michael burst into fresh tears. "No, it's not. It's not all right. I couldn't get in and I have to go to the bathroom." "And you're a boy. Go in the backyard and find a tray." I unlocked the door. When David Michael gets like this, it's best to just sort of ignore his tears and pretend everything is fine. Marianne and I held the door open for him, and I ushered him into the bathroom. Our collie, Louie, tore outside as we went in. He was frantic to get outdoors after being locked in the house since breakfast time. "See, the dog knows. Go in the backyard and find a tree. Why can't your little brother do the same thing?" "Well, you go to the bathroom," I told David Michael. "I'm going to fix us some lemonade, okay?" David Michael actually smiled. "Okay. I'm good with children. So is Marianne. Mom says so. Both of us get lots of afternoon and weekend babysitting jobs. In fact, I'd been offered a job for that afternoon, but I had to turn it down because of David Michael." That reminded me. "Hey," I said to Marianne as I turned on the air conditioning, "Mrs. Newton asked me to babysit for Jamie this afternoon. Didn't she call you after she called me?" Marianne sat down at the kitchen table and watched me put lemonade mix in a big glass pitcher. She shook her head. "No, maybe she called Claudia. Claudia Kishi lives across the street from me. She and Marianne and I have lived on Bradford Court since we were born. We've grown up together, but somehow Claudia has never spent as much time with us as Marianne and I have spent with each other. For one thing, Claudia's really into art and always off at art classes, or else holed up in her room painting or drawing, or reading mysteries. That's her other passion. She's much more grown up than Marianne and I. So, going to art classes and painting and doing art projects in her room is more grown up than you? What do? Sit in your bedroom sucking your thumb? I mean, yeah. I don't see how doing that stuff is more grown up. When we were little, Marianne and I were always playing school or Let me try that again. When we were little, Marianne and I were always playing school or dolls or dress up, but we practically had to brainwash Claudia to get her to join us. A lot of the time we just didn't bother, but Claude's always been good for a bike ride or going to the movies or the community pool. As far as I'm concerned, one of the best things about Claudia is that her father isn't Mr. Spear. Mr. Kishi can be strict about Claudia's schoolwork, but he doesn't faint if you suggest going downtown for a Coke or something. Again, different parents have different rules. Yeah, like you said, Mr. Spear's strict because Marianne is all he's got, so he worries about her. Yeah. It's not that big a deal. Chill. Over the summer, it had started to feel like Claudia was drifting apart from Marianne and me. Even though we were all going into 7th grade, Claudia suddenly seemed older. She started caring about boys and had spent more time than usual adding to her wardrobe and talking on the phone. We'd all made up at the end of summer, but it still felt like we were going in different directions sometimes. David Michael came into the kitchen, looking much cheerier. "Here you go," I said. I handed him a glass of lemonade as he sat next to Marianne. Charlie came in then, tossing a football around. Sam got home a few minutes later, with Louie skidding along behind him. Charlie is 16 and Sam is 14. They both go to Stoneybrook High. Sam's a freshman this year and Charlie's a junior. "Hi, everybody." "Hi, Squirt," Charlie said to David Michael. "I am not a squirt," replied David Michael. Charlie thought he was so great because he'd just made the varsity team. That seems like a totally different, yeah. "Hi, Squirt." Charlie thinks he's so great. Yeah, he sounds like a typical big brother to me. You'd think he was the first person ever to play football for Stoneybrook High. "We're going to play ball in the Hansons' backyard," Sam announced. "Want to play, Kristy?" I did, but David Michael wouldn't want to. He was too little. "I don't know. I thought Marianne and I would take David Michael to the brook. You want to go wading, David Michael?" I asked. He nodded happily. "See you guys later," I called as Sam and Charlie left the house, slamming the front door behind them. Marianne and I took David Michael and Louie to the brook. We watched David Michael wade and make sailboats and try to catch minnows. Louie ran around looking for squirrels. "I'd better go," Marianne said after an hour or so. "Dad will be home soon." "Yeah, Mom will be home soon too." "David Michael!" I called. "Time to leave." He stood up reluctantly, and the three of us and Louie walked home together. When we reached our driveway, David Michael ran across the lawn, and Marianne whispered to me, 9 o'clock, okay?" I grinned. "Okay." Marianne and I have a secret code. Marianne made it up. We can signal each other with flashlights. If I look out my bedroom window, I can see right into hers. So many things I could say. Lots of nights we talk to each other with the flashlights, since Marianne isn't allowed on the phone after dinner, except for things like babysitting jobs or getting homework assignments. When Mom came home a little while later, she had a pizza with her. My brothers and I stood around the kitchen, breathing in the smell of cheese and pepperoni. But Sam and Charlie looked skeptical. I wonder what she wants, murmured Sam. Yeah, said Charlie. Mom only gets pizza when she has to ask us a favor. I decided not to beat around the bush. How come you bought a pizza, Mom? I asked. Charlie kicked my ankle, but I ignored him. Come on, what do you have to ask us? Why are you such a brat? Mom grinned. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew that we knew it. Oh, all right, she said. Kathy called me at work to say she won't be able to watch David Michael tomorrow. I was wondering what you guys are... Football practice, said Charlie promptly. Math club, said Sam. Sitting at the Newtons, I said. Drat, said Mom. Yeah, I'm sure the 30-some-odd-year-old woman said drat. But we are sorry, added Sam. I know you are. Then we dug into the pizza while Mom started making phone calls. She called Mary Ann. Mary Ann was sitting for the Pikes. She called Claudia. Claudia had an art class. She called 2 high school girls. They had cheerleading practice. David Michael looked like he might cry. Finally, Mom called Mrs. Newton and asked if she would mind if I brought David Michael with me when I sat for Jamie. Luckily, Mrs. Newton didn't mind. I chewed away at a gloppy mouthful of cheese and pepperoni and thought it was too bad that Mom's pizza had to get cold while she made all those phone calls. I thought it was too bad that David Michael had to sit there and feel like he was causing a lot of trouble just because he was only 6 years old and couldn't take care of himself yet. Yeah, because I'm sure that David Michael's sitting there paying attention to what your mom is doing and not, paying attention to his food. Then the idea for the Babysitters Club came to me, and I almost choked. I could barely wait until 9 o'clock so I could signal the great idea to Mary Ann. And that's it for Chapter 1. I will see you next time for Chapter 2, and have a good one.